So I think most of you know me. I'm Jan Nussbaum. I work in law career services, and I work with all students and grads, but I have a focus on students in their graduating year and then the recent grads. So I'll be working with you a lot after you graduate. Our panel today, we have 4 panelists who are going to tell us about their post-bar experiences. And I'll start on the end with Bailey Byfoss. She's, for some reason, I printed this kind of small for me, so excuse me, I'm not going like this because my eyesight. Bailey is a 2011 GGU graduate who specializes in employment law. During law school, Bailey clerked for a variety of nonprofits and a plaintiff's employment law firm. Currently, Bailey handles employment cases on a contract basis for a plaintiff's employment law firm, the plaintiff's employment law firm of Daniel Fetter. And then we have Otis Landerholm. He's a 2010 GGU graduate who runs his own law firm, where he especially enjoys defending the rights of ordinary folks who are unfamiliar with the legal system. Otis handles a good deal of immigration and bankruptcy matters. Otis enjoys learning foreign languages and speaks Spanish and Chinese well, unlike myself, who speaks both like tiny little phrases. Then we've got Erica Korn, who's a 2011 graduate, who was an assistant district attorney at the SF District Attorney's Office. During law school, Erica was a member of the Honors Lawyering Program and competed in mock trial competitions every semester during her second and third year. She interned at the SFDA's office for a year and a half, during which time she second chaired several homicide and other felony trials. Erica also clerked at the U.S. Attorney's Office for 1 semester during the spring of her 3-0 year, and they had the opportunity to try a case in federal court. And then last but not least, Danny Wang is a 2008 GGU graduate who's an associate at Stephen Adair McDonald and Associates here in San Francisco, who primarily handles landlord-tenant law. During law school, Danny clerked at the San Francisco Public Defender's Office and First District Appellate Project. He was also a student clinician. He was also a student clinician at GGU's Environmental Law and Justice Clinic and journal editor of the editorial board member for GGU's Environmental Law Journal. It's a mouthful.
It is. Good job.
Anyway, welcome. And so to start, I wanted the panelists to each tell us about the work and activities that they did after taking the bar, whether it was paid work, volunteer, professional associations, networking, what exactly you did, and just sort of to set the stage for what you did, and then I'll ask some more questions after that. So, Danny, why don't you start?
Sure. Thank you all for coming out today, and I guess most of you all agree also congratulations, and it's almost there, but then you have the bar to look forward to, so kind of, catch-22. But in any event, after I passed the bar and became licensed, I kind of ran the whole gamut. I was a grad fellow at LCS this spring following my bar admission, but at the same time, not only doing that, I volunteered with the Bar Association in San Francisco's Volunteer Legal Services Program. They have ways where you can go through a training either through various practice areas such as family law, landlord-tenant law, and that's kind of where I ended up going down the road. But what you do is you get free MCLE credits through this training in exchange for volunteering at settlement conferences down at San Francisco Superior Court. They give you a mentor. You can work with people, actually gain legal experience while at the same time satisfying some MCLE credits, so it's very helpful. On top of that, after that, I also was doing various contract work through journal editing for my journal experience while I was at GGU. I've done contract work for various attorneys who then referred me to other attorneys, and that's how I actually got my first client when I started my own law office. So I've kind of done the entire gamut, and I just don't want you guys to feel like you can only do one thing. I mean, there's many ways you can follow, many paths you can take in order to get eventually your full-time job. That's why I encourage all you guys to do is don't feel that you can only rely upon, say, I guess we'll get there eventually, so I don't want to start repeating your words of wisdom just yet. So I just did a lot of things before I got to where I am right now.
Yeah, these were things you did once you were licensed?
Yes.
Okay, what did you do before that?
Before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I definitely took some time off after the bar. I was pretty burnt out for 3 months of studying intensely. It was very rigorous, of course. Took time off, took a little vacation, and actually what I should have done is been a little more, I guess, more proactive when I was waiting for my bar scores. it's tough to, I just kind of want to tell you guys too, like some people feel like, oh, well, I'll just look for a job when I actually become licensed. It's not a really great idea. That's what I did. And what you should do is go ahead and just begin looking, begin meeting people at least. Because you have this wonderful grace period where you're still waiting for the fact of whether or not you pass the bar and got your good news. So you can meet attorneys and you don't have to say, well, I don't have a job yet because we're still waiting for your bar scores. So everyone can sympathize with you and you can be like, oh, I'm just waiting for my scores, and they're like, oh, okay, that's great. Maybe when you pass, you should contact me. It's a lot less pressure when you do the networking with people. So I didn't do as much as I should have done while I was waiting for my bar scores. But I encourage you guys definitely, after you take your nice vacation, to definitely start meeting people and talking with lawyers.
So I was very adamant during the fall and spring of my 3L year to have something lined up for my post-bar position, ideally in the realm of criminal prosecution. So I applied all over. I had been working at the San Francisco District Attorney's Office for quite some time. I had some really good experience, so I was hopeful that I could get a post-bar position there. Applied for it, did not get it. Then I was very lucky and fortunate to get a position at the U.S. Attorney's Office as a post-bar. A week before I took the bar, the HR department called me at the U.S. Attorney's Office telling me that they didn't think that I was going to be able to come back because of HR policies. So I had that going right into the bar after having months of having it lined up and all that. Immediately after taking the bar, they confirmed that they were not going to be able to take me on board because of HR policy reasons. They couldn't have non-student volunteers. So I freaked out and was really just upset because I felt like I had put so much into it. Got a weekend job at a restaurant, but was pretty adamant that I should be doing something else. So the same day that I found out for sure I could not get the U.S. Attorney's Office job, I went back to my bosses at the SF District Attorney's Office and said, hey, I know the post-bar position that's paid is not available. Can I come back and volunteer? So they had me the following Monday come back and volunteer. So I did full-time during the week as a post-bar at the DA's office, and then to supplement my income, worked restaurants Thursday through Sunday after I got off work.
Sure. So, hello. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces here. Yeah, the bar exam takes a lot out of you. So once you're over that, and once you are sort of mind is spinning and you're trying to figure out what to do next, good luck. When I was in that situation, I was sending out applications to different clerkship positions with different judges. I was sending out applications to work at different nonprofits in the area. This was in 2010, and nobody was hiring at all. And what everybody was telling me is that people would start to hire or think about hiring you, or at least give you an interview if you passed. So you had to wait until November to figure that out, right? But I was antsy and didn't really want to wait. What I ended up doing is calling a friend of mine who was a Golden Gate graduate, who had started her own law firm and was doing immigration law. And I said, hey, can I basically shadow you, be your personal law slave for the next 3 months before I get my results? And can you show me how you did this? And can you show me how you opened up your own practice? And she said, yeah, come on over. She was over in Berkeley, and I started working with her, and that was a great experience. Then November 19th, 6 p.m. or whatever it was, came on finally, and you get to check your bar results. And if you pass, then you get the green light, and you have your license to be able to represent folks in court. And I opened my own practice and started taking clients January 1 of 2011. So that was my story.
I got really lucky with my post-bar opportunities. I didn't really, looking back on it, have a game plan for what I was going to do after taking the bar exam, which was not real smart and probably could have ended really poorly. Thankfully, LCS happened to be looking for a graduate fellow shortly after the bar exam, and I believe I probably heard about the opportunity through one of the emails that LCS sends out on a semi-regular basis. And I thought, well, I'll apply for this. The worst that happens is that I don't hear back, and then figured I would, maybe do the restaurant thing for a few months or whatever it may be. But it ended up working out really well. LCS ended up hiring me as their graduate fellow for the fall of this year. So I worked there almost full-time, probably 35 to 40 hours a week, for August through the beginning of December. And it was a really great opportunity because it's LCS, and so their goal is to make sure that all of us are employed. And so it was really great to be working in this environment that was so supportive of my career goals. So I ended up working out really well.
So my next question that I had, I guess some of you answered, but maybe I'll kind of throw it out and see if anyone has anything to add, is because I think Erica's is kind of self-evident. I was going to ask, what did you do post taking the bar that helped you get your current position? And Danny has said that he didn't do anything and he wished he had. And Erica volunteered where she wanted to work.
I also did, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah,
I
go
also
ahead.
took the, so when my post-bar ended, and I just tell you this because I'm a very big advocate of doing anything you have an opportunity to do. When my post-bar, when we got our results, the post-bar position was over, and they pretty much said you can apply for the paid job and the volunteer attorney job, because most DAs, PD's offices have that. And so I applied for both, I interviewed for both, and then during the month that I was kind of waiting to hear back, I worked at a family law firm for a month as a secretary, and just to be getting experience in the firm. And then I got an offer when I was still interviewing for the paid job at the DA's office, because it was like it's a 3-step process. I got a call saying, well, you can come on as a volunteer and continue to interview for the paid job. So I started as a volunteer in January, was a volunteer for about 3 weeks. And then during the course of my volunteer program, they were actually able to see me as a lawyer instead of just me as an intern, and see that I can actually go in court and do things and have practiced these skills, mock trial skills. And so based on my willingness to come in and volunteer, they were actually able to see what I could do, and then I was subsequently hired thereafter.
So maybe I should ask, as part of this, what things did you do that helped you get your job? I know Otis kind of shadowed this one sole practitioner, but what things should you have done that you didn't do?
I had coffee with anyone that would talk to me. Seriously, anyone. Like I drove all the way out to, I forget, somewhere in Contra Costa County at one point to meet with one of the district attorneys there, even though I don't actually have any interest in criminal law, nor Contra Costa County. It's beat to death, I know, but networking really, really is how things happen. I mean, my current position, I got because a friend of mine was already working there, and she got the position through her boyfriend's friend, girlfriend's sister. Seriously, like that's how she ended up in this position. And then when Dan Fetter ended up getting more work and needing more people, he asked her for recommendations, and so they took on a couple more brand new attorneys. But it really is about meeting with anybody that you can, and getting your name out there, and getting people to think of you. And I think one of the most difficult things that I'm experiencing in the networking thing is kind of following up with all of the people that I've met with. And I wish that I would have done a better job from the start of keeping track of who I was having coffee with and when I had coffee with them, and some details that I could then follow up with in the future. Because now I have this kind of pile of business cards at home that's really disorganized and is not very conducive to allowing me to effectively follow up with a lot of the people who could potentially have a job opening in the future.
I've actually heard of people having Excel spreadsheets that they keep on, and just keep track of when they contacted people a little bit.
That would have been great. Yeah, I should have done something.
Yeah, I did a lot of that. I remember taking a lot of people, almost on a weekly basis, either out to coffee or lunch. And when I decided that I was going to open my own practice, I would just call solo practitioners and be like, hey, let me buy you lunch and tell me how you did this. Because, you know, there's a whole ton of things that goes into being a solo that they simply never cover in law school, right? How to run a business and things like that. And I also would ditto something that Danny said about the VLSP program, Volunteer Legal Services Program. And I would recommend, like, if you don't know exactly what area of law interests you, for example, volunteering with clinics and volunteering with the VLSP program and going to different MCLEs to be trained in various areas of the law is really, really wise. One, it's a good way to meet people who are at those trainings or are volunteering as well. Two, it's a great way to learn a new area of law and see whether or not you like it. And three, once you get your license, you can get clients that way. You know, there are folks that go to these clinics looking for help and they want pro bono attorneys because they can't afford them. All right, they can't afford to pay for an expensive attorney. And so that's a great way to sort of get into court if you're interested in doing that, or to get a couple of clients to see if you're interested in practicing whatever area of law that client needs.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I just kind of wanted to build upon what Bailey and Otis were saying, is that the networking and the volunteering, they're not isolated. Like, you don't want to put all your eggs in that one basket. The point is, if you start networking with a lot of people, but you're not doing anything, you're just going to be maybe that one person they remember, oh, there's another person looking for a job. But if you actually do things while, say, let's say this post-admission to the bar, if you start volunteering with the LSP and you actually meet these people at these networking events or informational interviews that Bailey's been doing everywhere, and so did Otis, you can actually talk about something you're doing. And they can see you as being more than just this person looking for a job. They can see you being this person who is already doing things. And it's just because, hey, everyone knows it's a tough job market. But what are you doing other than just looking for a job like everybody else is? And when you actually come across this person who is taking this time to do more than just sitting at home looking on Craigslist for a job, it just shows a little initiative. And I want to help somebody who's not just saying, oh my God, I can't find a job. Well, welcome to the party. Everyone's looking for a job. But if you actually come across someone and say, this person is trying, he's doing his best, he's volunteering, he's getting experience, I'm more compelled to maybe remember this person or even want to help this person because he's not trying to feel sorry for himself. And you have to remain upbeat. You know, it's really tough out there after work. It's not going to be easy, and it could be, if you find a job, great, you'll be very happy. But at the same time, when you meet these new people, don't, you know, try to tell another sob story because they've heard them all. And lots of people are in that position. But once you come across as being just positive, being like, hey, it's nice to meet you, great, thank you so much, and follow up, like Bailey said, with people, and just write like a note on the business card, one fact that you might remember about them, one conversation you had about their kid or about a case that they had, and follow up and say, hey, it's nice talking to you about X. And then they'll remember you, like, oh, this person really paid attention, and you know, you can get a better chance of maybe finding a job when you have experience to back up the many info interviews that you go through and all the networking and the people you meet.
I can tell you what not to do.
Good, that was my next question. What not to do? Either you didn't do something yourself or did you
No, I was doing
something somebody else
No, I
did?
did something that I just think turned out to be very negative, and that I had obviously great opportunity to be at the DA's office. I was second chairing trials. I was working on misdemeanors, which is eventually, if you're hired right away, that's what you're going to be working on. So I had great experience. My problem was that between working that job and working a weekend job, I had no time to network, and I wasn't really fitting it in. So I was that classic person who was just on Craigslist and on websites. I literally probably applied for 200 jobs. And I don't think I heard back from more than one or two of them. And I remember getting a rejection letter and at least being like, well, they sent me something. And the reason I say definitely don't do that, it's not don't apply for jobs, it's don't just send out mindless resumes to places that you don't think that will really be compatible, because it's a really negative feeling to be like, I'm sending out all this stuff, I'm volunteering, what am I supposed to do? Because it's really, you're not gonna, I won't say you're not, but it's a lot less likely that you're going to get some random job off of an internet posting than if you go out and actually cultivate relationships with lawyers and have a connection use people who are older than you, who have jobs, if you want to try and get some more network connections, if you don't know where to go to networking events, join bar associations, do anything you can. So don't be that person who sits at home, because you just sit there and you get more and more frustrated and more concerned about it. And that's what I did most workable.
I want to add something to that, is that I know we've been meeting with a lot of you one-on-one, and so you may have heard this already, but join professional associations now when it's either free or like 15 or 30 bucks, because the minute you graduate, it's like 300 or 150. It's really expensive. So we have lists of all the different professional associations, and come in and get a copy and target the ones you want to join, and do it now before you graduate. So it'll really save you a lot of money, and you'll be on their email list, and you'll find out about a lot of these events. So.
I just wanted to ask what you guys did to basically be able to pay rent and everything in the meanwhile, or Erica, maybe what you would have done differently, because it sounds like that was really hard to do at the same time.
Yeah, I was not someone who, I unfortunately didn't have help from parents or anything like that, so I had to. What I did was I was very diligent. You guys can do this now, it's getting close to it, but make your money last I know when you're in law school and you're like, oh, monopoly money, I can just go buy whatever I want, but just realize that runs out at some point. So I got really diligent in my last semester about making that money last, and so I was able to make that money stretch. But then unfortunately, what would have been nice is to be able to take a lot of time off after taking the bar, but I took some time off and immediately started looking for like a weekend job. And obviously that's not ideal. The idea is you graduate from law school, you want to be a lawyer, do something with your JD, but the reality of it is you have to do something to pay your bills. And so I went into it with a pretty positive attitude. You just kind of have to, it's something that's going to get you by, but you want to be able to do legal work as well. So just taking any opportunity you can. Like I said, I was a legal secretary at a family law firm. I have absolutely no interest in doing family law at any time in my life, but I did it just to see, at least some perspective of what a firm looks like.
Did any of the rest of you have anything to add to that question?
Well, while I was, looking for a job too, I worked part-time at the San Francisco Law Library. So I worked weekends and I worked evening shifts, so I can still do my normal 9 to 5 lawyer job. So it's just keeping your options open, and it's a lot of hard work, but I don't think you should close the door on any sort of opportunity that you might have. While I was waiting for my bar scores too, I didn't need a JD to do these editing of articles for, on a sort of contract basis, so I helped some attorneys publish some articles. But just anything that you can do, of course, that you can pay the bills. I had friends who worked at a shoe store, and I've heard, Erica, and, I barely were thinking about working in the restaurant business, but you have to do what you need to do. So obviously, no one's just going to hand you out money. And if you don't have a good network, family to fall back upon, you do have to just get out there and don't feel bad, like, oh my God, what did I go to law school if I'm, doing this non-attorney job? But it's, it's a means to an end. If you just give up too early, you're not going to be able to say, okay, well, I survived, because you won't. So you just need to just don't look upon negatively taking a non-attorney job in order to survive until you can get the job that you might like.
And as a follow-up to that, and the things not to do question, are don't forget about your loans. They don't, they usually, mine at least came due right around Christmas. Merry Christmas to me. That's not what we were. And they're super scary, and they're not fun to think about at all, especially when you're in a position where you're struggling to pay rent. But I know of individuals who have taken the approach of, well, I don't have any income for them to garnish, thus it doesn't matter if I just ignore them. Don't do that, please don't do that. Like there are deferments and forbearance and lots of programs that that if you speak with your lenders, they can sign you up for, and you can postpone them for a few months. I mean, it's not an ideal situation, because then depending on the program that you sign up for, interest may still be accumulating on your loans, but it's really better than tanking your credit or worse for not paying your loans back when they're due.
The only thing I would add is that, so as far as the money goes, that's a really great question, and it's a good thing to think about that now. I was lucky on two fronts, because I had a wife who was a teacher, and so she was at least making enough to pay for our apartment. But then I was lucky on the second front that the work that I was doing, slaving away for the immigration sole practitioner in Berkeley, was paid. And so she ended up seeing that I was good. I didn't start out being paid, but she ended up seeing that I was good at what I was doing, and she ended up paying me about minimum wage, which wasn't enough to pay all the bills or whatever, but at least it was something. And so once you get into the door, if you start sort of volunteering for someone or shadowing someone, if they know that your work is now valuable, often they'll be willing to put a value on it. And so that's something to keep in mind too.
So I was going to ask one more question and then we'll open it up. Was there anything that you saw your classmates do that you thought was a really good idea? That you thought, oh, I should have done that.
I guess
really comforting.
I guess just overall being really flexible. I wouldn't say it's necessarily things to do, but maybe things not to do. I see some of my classmates still now saying, oh, that's a job that interests me, but I'm not going to apply because it only pays XYZ money. And it's like, I guess for me, I went into it with the attitude, and I see a lot of my colleagues going in with the attitude of, look, I got to do what I got to do. It's great to get experience in different areas or do whatever I have to get my career started. It's, as everyone knows, it's not the easiest time, but it's also not impossible. So don't open yourself up and say, I'll do anything, but also don't limit your options that are so narrow to unrealistic expectations. I mean, I have some colleagues who are like, I won't take a job unless it pays $120,000 a year. And that's not gonna happen. So don't do that, but just be flexible, take different opportunities as you get them, even if it's temporary, even if it may not be an ideal type of position, not a lawyer position. Just do different things because you, in the process, will meet different people.
So, just we'll open it up for questions.
A couple questions. In terms of contract, I mean, you always hear about people becoming contract attorneys and stuff. How does that work? Because nobody really offers any insight into that. And then I know there are like legal temp agencies like Pathways and whatever, Black Letter Discovery or something like that that you can look into. And then the other question I had was, did any of you guys have to deal with grade issues or anything like that when you guys were applying for jobs?
With what kind of issues?
Grades?
Grade
Grades or rank or whatever.
Actually, I don't know that I've ever had anybody ask me about my grades. Ever, actually. I mean, my class rank is on my resume, so maybe they just don't feel compelled to ask about my grades based on that information, but it's never come up. As far as the contract work, there are a variety of different ways that you can go about it. I actually am super informal with my current boss just because that's the way he operates his practice and that's the way he's always operated his practice. We don't actually even have a formal written contract. But he pays me an hourly rate. I have my own clients. I also work on some trials and class actions that are already ongoing at the office. And so it's very similar to an associate position, but it works for Dan Fetter because he's a solo practitioner, and by hiring contract attorneys, it keeps his overhead lower, and so it enables him to take on clients on a contingency basis, which is what he does. And then, so there's no not getting health insurance or any of those sorts of things, but it is really great experience. A lot of experience.
Okay, well, contract work can be anything. It can be you just doing a legal writing a research memo for someone on an issue that they don't have the time to do. I mean, it could be you could go to 10 court hearings for them, just sort of making an appearance. And as Bailey said, the only thing is you don't get the health insurance, you don't get that stability you might want, but you do have a lot of flexibility. So I had to do contract work for a guy who's all the way in San Jose, and that was a big pain in the butt to get all the way out there all the time. But I could work remotely as long as he just gave me assignments. I would just send them back to him, so it worked out well. Regarding temp agencies, I guess some people, they think about maybe doing like doc review. something along those lines. And I'm not going to say don't do doc review. You can pay well. It's no guarantee it's going to last forever, and some people get stuck doing that for a while. But it will pay the bills, and you will get a good chunk of money. It'll pay your loans if you need to do that. But just try not to fall into a rut. I didn't use like any other like actual agency who tried to actively place me in legal positions. I just kind of did that on my own. Grades never really came up just because I guess I got my job more through networking. I mean, if you're going to rely upon your grades, if you submit your resume and cover letter, there are, like Gailey has her class rank there. So pretty much that's already going to be covered. If grades was a big deal, then you wouldn't have got that call back. You wouldn't be talking to them at that moment. If you're already past that point, they're probably more interested in the type of person that you are. But that's just strictly by the applying online or jobs through letter or whatever. But the best way to do it, if you're worried about your grades, like it's not the end all be all. Like if you were looking at trying to get in some top 5 firm that was huge and paying you $120 a year, okay, yeah, grades are certainly an issue. But if you're just looking at trying to get some experience, more these smaller firms or people who have their own solo practices, they want to have someone that they want to work with. So what's more important is that you demonstrate that willingness to do whatever it is that you need to do, and then based on that value, they can see themselves working with someone like you because you're a go-getter. You actually care and you show initiative. So I think it's more important. Well, like I said, don't cry yourself to bed at night. Your grades aren't where they want to be, because you can find a job whatever your grades are. You might have to work a little bit more at it, but it's not the end of your job search.
And then as a follow-up, how do you determine what a reasonable rate as a contract attorney is? I mean, if you have no experience, what is that?
Take contract lawyers out to lunch and ask them what they charge and how they do it, and that's a great question, and it takes some getting to know what the market is demanding for that type of work. I would just add to what Danny and Bailey said that I think contract work is a must. For me, I mean, I've got my own practice, yes, and I have my own clients, yes, but part of my income and experience and the process of learning the ropes has been helping other attorneys that are doing similar or the same type of work when they need somebody to go in the court for them that day because they can't make the hearing. So they call me, they know I don't have that many clients yet, and I say, and they say, hey, can you cover for me in court tomorrow or something like that? And I'll say for $300 I can, and they say, okay, sure, okay. And if that sounds like a reasonable price to them, and if that's something that isn't going to stress me out and kill me studying the law that I need to that night, then I'll do it, And that's kind of a good way to feel more comfortable in front of judges. It's a good way to get some experience, and it's a good way to meet people that are doing similar areas of law, because what you can end up saying there too is, yeah, for $300 I'll do it, and you've got to buy me lunch if anything goes wrong in court or something like that. So and then you open up the conversation for I don't know, more contact in the future. So yeah, I think contract work is essential.
Also, and I can tell you, since I've now worked with the 2011 class from when they took the bar onward, I've seen the gambit in terms of contracting work. Usually if a temp agency calls you, they take a big cut of it. So sometimes you're not making much more than minimum wage, maybe $15 or $20 an hour if you're lucky. And other times, again, through networking, somebody might want to try you out on a contract basis. A lot of firms now want to have you start as a contractor, see how you work out. They haven't made a commitment. And it can be, some people are making $50 an hour. This is once they've gotten licensed. I mean, obviously you could do some contracting work. They'll probably pay you less before you get your bar results. But it's sort of the gambit. But it also is a nice way, too, I think, if you're not sure about a place, to go in as a contractor. And then, if you both really like each other, great. If not, you can at least show that you've gotten some work experience and move on. So, yeah, I've really seen the gambit with this 2011 class. Was there any other? Yeah.
Did you guys apply locally when you were applying for jobs, or did you look at other cities, counties? I mean, and what influenced your decision to stay versus maybe be able to move?
I think it's really tough to get a job in a place that you're not living. That's something that I am still kind of struggling with a little bit, because I have always been madly in love with New York and Boston, as well as San Francisco. But it just can't, I mean, I have had some real struggles getting anyone to call me back without a Boston or New York address on the top of my resume. You know, so.
When I was applying, oh sorry.
No, I was going to ask if you had any insight into.
When I was applying, I ideally didn't want to leave San Francisco because I love it here, and so I was trying to do wide Bay Area, like willing to commute really far. And then once things kind of started looking kind of a little bit more troublesome in terms of the job search, I kind of opened it up to all over California. You have to be flexible, and one thing that really frustrated me, just from a prosecution standpoint, I think it's true in some other areas, is a lot of people say, oh, you have to start in smaller counties, you have to start in smaller counties. And so I did open up that, I opened myself up to that idea. I applied up in Redding, I applied down in, Southern California, and then in Monterey, and a bunch of different places. So I think you have to be open to it, but if you don't have the ability to leave, I didn't have as much flexibility as some other people. I couldn't just get up and move. So don't feel bad if you want to stay local.
I definitely wanted to stay local. I love San Francisco, and I didn't want to go back pretty much anywhere else. But it got to a point where I was thinking, well, I got to start looking a little more big picture and expand the area where I would like to work. Similar to, I guess, Eric, I was all Bay Area. I'll go North Bay, I'll go wherever. It really, I think you should certainly start where you would like to begin working, obviously, but keep an open mind, just because if you can get your dream job that's not located where you want to be, you can always maybe come back later. But if you have the best opportunity in front of you that's going to take you outside of your preferred area, by all means, really consider taking that opportunity. What's more important is developing experience, which can later translate back to maybe you finding a job where you want to be instead. So I just don't think you should ever turn down an opportunity because maybe it's a little further distance, unless it's economically impossible for you to either move out there or do what you need to do. But if you have an opportunity, keep your mind open, be willing to go where the job is, because you can always come back, hopefully.
I did that too. I applied for clerkships in Puerto Rico and Hawaii and in random places, the Western District of Virginia, wherever was playing had postings. Eventually, I was like, hey, let's send them a resume. But yeah, eventually, so if you're going to start a solo practice, it's incredibly, I'd say it's impossible to start a solo practice in a place where you're not, because you need to find the lease to the building that you're going to be at, right? But yeah, if you get a job with a firm or government agency or whatever, then go for it.
One thing I'll say too with the whole job search, and this is kind of off topic, but I was like that, there's a wide spectrum of people after they take the bar and after they pass the bar. Some people are like, oh, I got a job, I'm totally fine, not that stressed about it. And then there's people like me who are like, just crazy. And I was like a sad puppy. I was like, great, I'm never going to get a job, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent, I'm going to be unemployed for the rest of my life. It was horrible. So just remember, if you're like me, and just overanalyze and overworry about everything, that it only takes one person to give you a shot. It only takes one time to get that job. It takes one person to be like, we believe in this girl, we believe in this guy, we can see what she, we've seen what she can do. So just take every opportunity you can, not just to network, but to show people what you can do. And if you have an opportunity, even if it's not something you like, put your 100% into it, because even if they don't have the opportunity to hire you, the legal community, as you all hear regularly, is very small. I meet lawyers now and they're like, oh, I work here, but I know all these people at the DA's office and they don't even work in San Francisco. It's just a very small legal community. So if you make a good impression on one person, then it only takes one phone call. Yeah.
Isn't there anything you could talk about being approached by friends and family with legal problems, post bars? How you deal with those initial cases of your family coming to you with both charging them and just taking the case at all? Experience that.
I don't think I could charge my family just if they ask me. Well, I mean, you're gonna get that all the time. I mean, people are gonna ask you on the street, "Oh, you're a lawyer?" Oh, it's like if you're a doctor. I mean, everyone's gonna. I got this little muscle ache, or "Oh, I have this legal issue right now." And people forget that there are multiple practice areas out there. So just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean that I'm an expert on IP law or something like that. So I wouldn't charge my family. I mean, let's say if they said, "Danny, we got this problem with a tenant or something like that," and then I would just give them my 2 cents. I mean, their family. I mean, if you actually want, I guess if it's like a family friend, I would maybe consider giving them like a free consultation or something like that. But, I mean, you just have to be careful. I guess it's how much of your time is invested. If it's a 10-minute phone call, no worries. I'll take a phone call, help out. If they want me to actually start filing some documents or actually preparing some legal work, then I will seriously start considering to charge them, of course, because time is valuable. And I wouldn't feel bad because they should expect that because you're providing a service. I mean, I don't know, it just seems kind of weird. I mean, do you have that already happening to you? You seem very specific about your family. Yeah.
It's not hard to see it becoming a problem of family members wanting a lot of help from you and that consuming all of your time when you should be looking for a job and then you're helping your family with some of the problems that they're having.
I think it's important just to explain to them because they'll come to you and ask you things and you're like, I have no idea. That is a really complex real estate problem, issue, and they just assume that you know everything. And what I tell people, I mean, is I'm a little bit luckier that I'm a prosecutor, so they usually don't want my help because I really can't help people in that sense. But just be clear with people. I don't have advice for you because I don't know this area, and don't take it upon yourself to learn a whole new area of law for people. And just especially, you have to be careful too for your own professional standpoint. You don't want to be giving advice or counseling someone in an area that you don't have sufficient expertise. So I just take kind of a lazy approach. I'm like, I don't really know. That's a good question. So just being in an effort to be careful and in an effort just to not mislead anyone. But it's not as bad as you think. I mean, sometimes people will come to you.
I'd say the best thing that you can do for your family and even for other potential clients that come in with with a question that you don't know exactly how to answer, the best thing that you can do for folks in that situation is say, I have no idea, but I can figure out somebody who does know, and then you can get on, I don't know, you can look at your business cards of the people that you've taken out to lunch, or you can look on the Bar Association of San Francisco's registry or whatever. There are listservs of small and solo attorneys in the area. And anyway, there are ways that you can find a contact of someone that's a recommendable, respectable attorney who can handle any given area of law. That's just a phone call away. And it's better and safer for your license's sake to not take on more than you can handle.
Yeah.
For those that did contract work, where did you do your research since your Westlaw subscription cuts out?
My boss has a Westlaw subscription that everyone in the office uses, and I guess I'm not sure if that's a common approach. If that's what most attorneys who hire contracts.
I had my own through the law library while I was working through PartTime, so it really worked out well for me. I had everything I ever needed at my disposal, plus Westlaw, Lexis access. It was great. Even if you aren't a staff member, though, you can still go to the library. They recently, unfortunately, closed the branch location, which is just on 3rd and Kearney, right across the street. But the Civic Center location at the Veterans War Memorial, I think that building, it's still open. So you can just go on in there anytime and you just sign in, you get an hour interval, you can have Westlaw, Lexis, full access to any electronic database that you may need if you needed to do research for someone. And they're open pretty much Monday through Saturday. So if you don't have, say, a person like Bailey who has the ability to put you on their account, you can find ways to get onto free accounts to do the research you need.
I'm trying. We put on a workshop a couple months ago on solo practice, but it covered a lot of issues that contractors dealt with. It's on YouTube if anyone wants the link. It's 4.5 hours long, but it's a lot of health information, and the 10 panelists went over that. And they gave a lot of, similar to what Danny's saying, they give a lot of law libraries where you can go in and you can get research facilities, and I don't think you pay anything. And they might have given somebody to pay a nominal fee. And you should check with our own law library because you have some privileges there for a certain amount of time after you graduate. So.
Yeah, when I first started up and I had a legal question that I had no idea how to answer, what I would often say is, hey, that's a great question. I have no idea. I'm a young attorney. I just started. But I can figure that out, and I can get back to you. And so then I would hang up the phone and go to the law library, either Golden Gate's library or to the one at the Memorial Center at Civic Center, and figure it out, do the research. They have free online Westlaw at that library. And the other thing is you don't need Westlaw and Lexis. They are the biggest and the most expensive and things like that, but there are ways to do legal research on things like Google Scholar and things that are, you'll be able to find free resources depending on the area of law.
Question, if you've done all your work experience in the city, but you know you'll be moving back home to another city or state, how do you start networking with lawyers down there? Where do you start?
Place you want to go back home to?
Yeah, say like all my experience been with the San Francisco District Attorney's Office and our private attorneys, but I'm planning to go back to San Diego, and I don't know any attorneys down there. How would I start networking now?
Sorry.
Oh, no, well, what's your timeline of when you want to move to San Diego? Like right after the bar, like immediately go down there?
Correct.
And you want to just start doing things right now? Or just to maybe
I
give
will
you a head start?
somewhere,
Okay.
yeah.
Just look at maybe San Diego, there's got to be some sort of bar association, as there's a San Francisco Bar Association. You could initially try to contact, there's like social committee, there's various committees. You could even say, oh, I'm going to be moving down there at this time, I would like to join this committee. They're always looking for helping hands. Being in that capacity, then you meet a lot of lawyers, and you have, you're planning these events for lawyers to get together. And that's how you can maybe begin meeting, because you don't have to physically be there just yet, but you can kind of say, or just put your name out there. So try to contact a committee head. Those bar association events are really excellent ways to meet new people, especially since if you're going back there, that's probably the best way to begin. Meet a few lawyers, they'll refer a few other lawyers to you, start networking with those lawyers. You just go
I'm going to put a plug in for LCS. That list I was talking about, we've got the legal association and bar associations down in your area. If you come in and get that list, we've also got the alumni directory. You can go through and see what alums are down in the San Diego area. And we've got on LCS, there's a list of the lawyers that have worked with graduates, so you can take a look at who's in that area and start there.
And it doesn't hurt too to ask people who you've worked for, whether it be at the DA's office or your private attorneys you've worked for, if you have been able to keep in good communication and a good relationship with them, ask them if they know anyone, if they've ever practiced down there, because it's common that they have connections in a variety of different places, and they're oftentimes willing and able to put you in contact with the right people, so it never hurts to ask.
Is your family still there too?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
always there.
You can always, have your family kind of maybe ask some of their friends if they know lawyers, so you can maybe talk to as well. Just because it always helps to have a little family support helping you out too, and they can kind of like repeat the oven for you until you get there.
We also have, we have reciprocity with law schools down there. So if you come in, we'll talk to you about that too. So you can use their job postings that they have in the different law schools. Any more questions or? Okay, great. So want to thank our panelists and appreciate all their great